This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
Here we are again with another episode of The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I'm Jessica Marshall. We're starting off this week with a little book talk. The 5th annual Saratoga Book Festival is coming up on the first weekend of October. It's drawing some big names in literature to the Spa City. Among them are two-time Newbery medalist author Kate DiCamillo and two-time Caldecott medalist illustrator Sophie Blackall. DiCamillo is the author of dozens of beloved books and stories aimed at kids 8 to 12, including Because of Winn-Dixie and The Tale of Despereaux. Blackall has illustrated several best-selling children's books like Hello Lighthouse, Finding Winnie, and the Ivy and Bean series. Together, DiCamillo and Blackall are publishing a new book at the end of this month. It's called Lost Evangeline, a magical fairy tale about love, loss, and a tiny girl's brave journey to find her family. I recently got a chance to read that story and to talk about it with Kate DiCamillo and Sophie Blackall. Here's our conversation. Have either of you ever come to Saratoga before?
Not to the book festival.
Not to the book festival. I've been to Saratoga, but not to the book festival.
Since you've both been, I always ask anybody that is coming in from out of town, what's your favorite thing that you remember about your last trip there?
I'll go first, Sophie, okay? The first time I came to Saratoga, I got my first grown-up jacket because there's that great, all the great little downtown. Mm-hmm. And so it must have been a long time ago because I was thinking, wow, it's my first grown-up jacket because I came in and I was cold and I didn't have anything. It was like, okay, it was a very sophisticated jacket, which I still have. And I can't remember the name of the store that I got it in. And then the very last time I was there, I was in a restaurant. And this is something that Sophie will understand, I was utterly transfixed by an old circus poster and the color that was on the background of it. And that's my last memory of Saratoga.
That's good.
Yeah, that color that's the background color of the circus poster has never left me.
Wow.
What color was it?
At the risk of doing the color an injustice, I would say it was teal, but you know how a color can convey a whole feeling? It was just like this, this is what it did to my brain. A room by the sea, and Rilke, the poet, was sitting, all of that was conveyed in the color.
You have my interest piqued with this color. Did that color inspire any of your work, do you think?
That's a very good question. It's something that I keep on trying to capture. Mm-hmm. It's not quite melancholy. I have not been able to capture it, but I think of it when I write a story. So
that is amazing. And I need to look for this poster if it's still there. I would love to see it.
I could walk you to the restaurant. So.
Oh, that's so cool. But I do want to talk because you guys have such a marvelous rapport. Like, you guys just have this energy together. So I want to talk about your collaboration and what it's like to work together. I guess, can you take me back to the beginning of your collaboration, like how it started?
Sophie, do you want me to tackle the word collaboration or do you want to tackle it? Because
is that not the right word?
Well, it's a misnomer in how things usually work in this industry.
Mhm.
But we have gotten to the point where we're kind of we are collaborating. So, I mean, the way it typically happens is I turn in a manuscript, and then my editor, the design team at the publishing house, will decide who they think might be best to do the artwork. I have contractually what's called rights of refusal, where I can say, no, not that person, anybody but that person, which I've never done. But Sophie and I did a book.
It was peak COVID. I think it was 2020.
I turned in the manuscript for the Beatrice prophecy, and when I turned it in, in the words of Shakespeare, screwed my courage to the sticking place and said, I want Sophie Blackall to illustrate this. And at this point, Sophie and I had each other's email addresses, but we were just like ships in the night that like to wave at each other. And it happened. It happened that everybody agreed that Sophie was the person to do the book, and that Sophie agreed to do it. Then, because it all kind of like rolled out during the pandemic, and Sophie was working on the art for that during the pandemic, usually I'm kept apart from the process. So whoever the artist is, they do their work and it is funneled through that the design team and shown to me in a very, I'm not talking to Sophie typically.
Mhm. Okay.
Those days are over, though. Sophie and I are talking now. Yeah. So we were more in touch than we would normally be. And
Mhm.
I weighed in more than I would normally weigh in. And the great delight of Sophie doing this book is that I didn't know how much the sea meant to her. And so it was like, in that way, it was the perfect book for her.
And I will just say, because I love this part of the story of how we began working together, was that in those dark COVID days when I was sent the Beatrice Prophecy manuscript, I was about to leave my house and I had my coat on and my bag over my shoulder, and I was walking out the door and my phone pinged about something else, and I checked my email and my phone to see if where I was going for this meeting, and the email had arrived with the manuscript attached, which again doesn't usually happen. Normally, I will get an email saying, are you possibly interested about doing this book? And if you are possibly interested, then agents and blah, 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 and then the manuscript in due course will come your way.
Mhm.
But it was right there. And this was a story landing in my phone. And of course, I couldn't. I'll just read the first few lines. It's Kate DiCamillo. I'll just read the first few lines. And I read the first few lines, still standing there, bag on, coat. Then I let my bag slide to the floor. And then I took one arm out of the sleeve of my coat. And then I took the other arm out of the other sleeve. And then I just sort of sat down on the floor and I didn't move until I'd finished the book. And it's been so lovely to hear other people say, I read that book in one sitting, because that was what it felt like to me.
Mhm.
And then to move on to Lost Evangeline, while it's not a collaboration in the sense, as Kate said, that we go back and forth and Kate has written the manuscript and then I begin to draw it, but her words and stories and images are in my head, and it feels there are just a couple of writers who seem to have that direct kind of, like, it's just like there's a little plug has gone in and then it's just zoom, straight into my head.
I paid a
And
lot of money for that plug. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's
Wow.
just joyous. It really is. It's just joyous. And so I very selfishly assume that Kate has put all of these mermaids and whales and albatrosses and bobbing boats and ships in the night purely to make my brain happy, because this is the very list of things I've been yearning to draw. So
The world that you created, this story, Lost Evangeline, is the third in a trilogy, right? I'm not connected, the characters aren't connected, but the world is the same, right? Is it
Yes.
Norendi? How do you pronounce it?
That's how I say it. You can say it however you want. I made it up. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
I love it. I think it sounds beautiful. But it's a world that already kind of existed before you started this chapter of it, right? This part of the trilogy. So, I mean, was that something, Sophie, that you kind of studied, or that you guys did you try to kind of make the look and feel, kind of the same throughout the books, or did each illustrator kind of take their own interpretation of it?
Although there is the sort of overarching Narendi tale, I had the feeling that they were all disparate locations. That the locations are fairy tale places. They're like Herman Melville's Moby Dick. True places are never on any map. That's that. The true. What does he say? The truest places are not on any map. Something like that. But I did picture it in a little bit like Cornwall. That was where I went in my head. The
Okay.
cobbled streets leading down to the sea, all those little kind of higgledy-piggledy houses, and then walks along the cliffs and I've never been to Cornwall, but I dream of walking along those cliffs.
It's just like I never thought to ask you where you were in your head because you were so much in my head. And it looked so much the way that it was when I imagined it that I never thought to think, were you taking and of course it makes sense that it's Cornwall, but it's just like, oh yeah, no, you're just painting what I saw, you know?
I love that. Can we talk about the story a little bit, just to give our listeners kind of who might not have read the book yet, like I did, just to paint a picture of the story, right? It's sort of the seaside town. You say Cornwall is kind of the inspiration for it, but like, what can you kind of give us a little bit of detail about the story?
It is the story of Evangeline, who is a girl the size of a mouse, and who was found in a pair of boots by the cobbler, who is her father. And she longs to go to sea. And just as her father, the cobbler, does. And so this story of a small girl who plays a game with her father called Lost Evangeline, where she hides herself throughout the cobbler shop. This story was something that was in my head for like 15 years. One of those things where, and it's always nice to talk about this on stage or in public, how many times I tried to tell this story and how many times I failed. I knew that it was a story. I just couldn't figure out the way in. And finally, when the sea came into the story, and when the cobbler came into the story, those two things, the shoemaker, the sea, and then the story congealed. And so it's always that thing where when people say, do you throw everything? Don't throw it away. Just wait. Eventually the story will show up. So,
Mhm. And now is the time that it showed up.
yeah.
It's a really beautiful story. I enjoyed it. I read it all in one sitting because I could not put it down.
Oh, good.
It's very nice. It's exactly it hits the place that I look for when I want to sit down and do like leisure reading. So I guess that dovetails into my next question, which is for both of you, is who is your ideal audience for this? Like, who are you trying to speak to with this story and with the illustrations?
Anyone who can read or be read to, I think. I was thinking as I was rereading it last night that it is so much about love and loss and about the heartbreaking choice we make all the time to love with the potential of loss
Mm.
and that leap that we take that we don't know how something's going to end. We may love something that is taken away from us or that we lose. And the shoemaker's wife in the beginning says, "Don't do this. This is foolish. This is their only heartbreak lies ahead for you." And the shoemaker is, he's willing to take that risk. He makes that decision because this is a miracle. This is this thing. This small child has been found in a boot, and he sees the potential for this great love, but already there's the potential for the great loss. The miracle is the matter of fact thing, which is any child who is ever born ever is
Yeah.
that miracle. And there's also the potential every day that something might happen. Whoa, I just went really dark. And
Well,
then there's the sea, which is constantly giving and taking away.
yeah.
So for me, this book is just this, it's this wonderful story about this incredibly courageous, joyful, hopeful, funny small child and the relationship with her father, which is just a delight. And it's the father that I think everyone would wish to have. Playful and attentive and inventive and full of stories and songs and adventures and the possibility of adventure. He makes her tiny clothes and shoes and a bed, and he's just the dream fairy tale father.
I
Yeah.
never get tired of that.
Yeah.
I love the tiny shoes. I love
I know, right? It's just like, wow, that tapped into something for me. Everything that Sophie said about love and loss, and I'm just thinking about the title, Lost Evangeline, but it's also the courage to dream. That's one of the things that I hope that it emboldens children and adults to dream.
I love that. Well, I think that it's successful from my perspective, having read it. I just
Oh,
loved it, like very inspired by it. You guys might have another, I'm not going to use the word collaboration, but another another synergizing project that you're working
yes. Has that even been announced,
I
Sophie?
know. I was just it's just in our heads.
on.
Yeah,
Right. So
it's
you,
just in
you
our
envision
heads.
working
Yeah.
together again, basically.
Yeah, but it can't quit you, baby. It's just like
Oh,
it's
please
like
don't. Not just yet.
Award-winning author Kate DiCamillo and award-winning illustrator Sophie Blackall will be at the Saratoga Book Festival at the Maple Avenue Middle School on October 4th. Head over to timesunion.com for more details. We are going to take a short break right now, but when we come back, we'll be joined by comedian Zane Lamprey, who's performing in Albany this week. Stay tuned.
The decisions made at the state capitol in New York impact all of us, from our property taxes to the cost of health care or our civil rights. It's all really complicated, but I'm here to help you sort through it. I'm Dan Clark, author of the Capitol Confidential newsletter from the Times-Union. Find that at capitalconfidential.com. That's capital with an O. capitalconfidential.com. See you there.
If you're enjoying this podcast, take advantage of all the Times-Union has to offer and support our efforts to bring you award-winning journalism by becoming a Times-Union subscriber today. Go to timesunion.com/subscribe.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Eagle, a Times-Union podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Marshall. Comedian Zane Lamprey is used to traveling around the world to visit pubs. He's been doing it for almost 20 years on his show 3 Sheets. He blends his comedy with learning about local drinking customs. He's coming to Albany this week, where he's performing his stand-up at Common Roots Brewing Company's Albany Outpost. Lamprey joins Times-Union arts and entertainment editor Rick Marshall now on The Eagle.
I'll jump right into it. Where are you right now, by the way?
I'm home. I'm home for a minute. I live in Studio City,
Oh, nice.
California. I got back from Iowa last night, and I have one day to cram in about a week. And then tomorrow morning, I head out to New York. I'm doing a show, a bunch around the city,
Yeah.
and then I head upstate, and where, of course, I have Rochester, Syracuse, and
Albany here.
In Albany, yeah. And what's interesting is my mother grew up in Albany. My grandfather was a sheriff in Chautauqua County, and had come up with some. I mean, it's in his memoir. He does talk about it. He wrote a memoir. Thank goodness I get to read. But he talks about it, and apparently he came up with some detective strategies, and then J. Edgar Hoover recruited him to work for the FBI, and then moved the whole family to Albany.
That's wild.
Yeah. So they lived in Clifton Park, where I would go, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, take what seemed like a full day drive from Syracuse. We now know how long it really was, but it was like, oh God, we got to drive out there. And then my dad was from Schenectady. They met on a blind date, and then at some point moved up in the world to go to the big city in Syracuse.
Oh, that's wild. I was going to ask if you're familiar with the area, but clearly
Yeah,
you are. Well,
yeah.
you're performing at breweries around the country these days. How did you end up selecting Common Roots Brewing in Albany as one of the stops?
I mean, in full disclosure, we reach out to everybody. We come up with the routing that we're going to do, and in this meaning like literally New York State, and my tour booker will canvas the city, canvas the state rather, and reach out to everyone, and then the conversation comes down to, is it the right place? We kind of start weeding them out. And then anyone we don't go to, we still give them tickets to come to the show. But at the end of the day, we want to find the best brewery for the show. That's where we are. So that's why we have the show in Albany, one in Syracuse and one in Rochester, because those are kind of the places that worked out for us.
What can you say about, sort of the show you're bringing to Albany? What can, fans or maybe newcomers who might not be as
Yeah.
familiar with your comedy sort of expect from the show?
I'm a professional comedian, and I do about 140 shows a year. I've had three Amazon Prime specials, one that comes out in this coming January.
Yes.
This is what I do. Come out there with high expectations of the good time that you're going to have, because that's what I deliver. Every single night, I leave it all out there. I'm also doing shows at theaters that hold 1,500 people, So, but every night it's something different, and every night it's something amazing. I do my stuff, but I also like to learn about, where I am, and I will at points have conversations with the audience. I'm almost hesitant to say that because I don't want people to think that I'm going to be picking people out and making fun of them. That's not the case. I have conversations with people who already start those conversations. I'm not there to roast the audience, and unless someone deserves it. You know what? Strike that. But it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun night. It's stand up. It's a little bit more of a party atmosphere. It's you're gonna feel like you're at a party where a guy is holding court, and people are having a fun time. I mean, it's at breweries by design. The Troy Library was not available, so that's why we ended up moving to Common Roots. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just fun. It's fun. I mean, it's top-notch stand-up, but then we're also gonna talk about some other things too. No politics. The politics are completely off the table. Current events are off the table. We're just people that are all there, brought together by the love of beer and wanting to have a good time, have an escape from life.
I gotta ask too. I'm sure people want to have a drink with you everywhere you go, and given your everything there, how do you navigate that with fans? I feel like that's a lot of drinks, especially when that's associated with your brand, and you got to kind of, navigate that with people. You can't have a drink with every single person in every brewery.
I mean, it's so funny when I'm rolling into town, someone will say, "Hey, I'm coming to the show. There's another great brewery you should check out when you're in town." And it's like, brother, I'm rolling in.
Yeah.
It takes us hours to set up. Then we got to break down, and then we got to go to the next. We got to do the drive to the next brewery. I would love if I had more time when I was there, but I'm there really to celebrate and highlight the brewery that I'm at.
Yeah.
And as far as people wanting to have a beer with me, that's what the show's about, you
Yeah.
know? And for anyone who wants a little bit more, intimate experience, the VIPs get there early, and we talk a little bit, and then I teach them some of my favorite drinking games, and everyone's involved, and it's a lot of fun. And
Oh, wow.
that's my favorite moment of each day, is just getting to kick it a little bit with a smaller audience, before everybody else gets there. But even the show itself, it is a big hang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm having my first drink of the day when I'm on stage. You know, I think people want to think that I've gone in pregame someplace, but guys of a certain age aren't doing that as much as they used
I,
to.
I know this feeling. I feel that. Well, I also want to talk about one thing, another thing that is important to me as well. Your work with animals is
Oh
just
yeah.
amazing. I've been looking at your feed and researching all of this before we talked here, and it's amazing. I can't
Yeah.
say enough about it. Can you tell me a little bit about this part of your life that you've been sharing online?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty neat little segue. One of my friends, his name's Barry Katz, and he's a big manager of comedians. So like Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, everyone in the industry, knows him. He's the guy who's like he knows the moves to make. And about 2 months ago, I asked him if he would go to lunch. So I met him out in Malibu, and we had lunch for about 2.5 hours, and just talked life, but also career. And he said to me, we were talking about when I had the TV shows and how that landscape has changed. And the shows that I had done before aren't things that are being done anymore. There's really no network for those kinds of shows. Travel, if you're doing a travel show, you're not even doing it on a travel channel, you're doing it on YouTube. And he said, so if you could make a show on YouTube that you were doing anything you wanted to do, whatever it is, what would it be? And I said, animals. I would be It'd be animal encounters. I'd be meeting animals, and I would be, in a humorous way, educating people on different animals so that they would, um, they could start to appreciate them in a different way. And he said, "Do it." I go, "Yeah, but my stand-up isn't about animals. People know me as the drinking guy." He's like, "You do what you want to do, and people will follow." They want to know what you want to do. And so in an instant I changed that. And literally that I had a trip to Ohio 2 days later. I reached out to a bunch of locations, and I went in, got to meet some incredible animals. And it has been such an incredible change in trajectory, for everything from my YouTube to my social media, that like it's kind of like first of all, if you don't love animals, stop reading. You know what I mean? I don't understand you, but most people would love to just meet some of these creatures that I get to meet, and I enjoy it. It was also this thing where, like, if you had $100 million today, what would you still do? It's like, well, I would still do stand up, and I would still do my animal stuff. I don't know what else I would still do. You know what I mean? Because those are the things that I love to do. And there's new ones coming out. I think I come out with at least two a week, two different animal things coming
Yeah,
out.
you're prolific.
Yeah, good. Yes, I love it. I'll take it.
Well, my last thing for you, can you tell me what else are you working on these days? Where else can people find you if they go to the show? They love what they see. They want to go out and see more. We talked a little bit about, your social feeds and things like that, but
Yeah.
what else? Where else can people find you? Where do you want people to be looking for you?
I mean, I would just go to zanelamprey.com and hit me on my socials. I have so many projects right now. I'm
It looks
happy to
that
say,
way.
and I love that I'm able to say this one. I actually have one that I'm legally not allowed to talk about, and I love when I'm in that position. That means that there's something big cooking. But I have a book that comes out next year. It's called Glass Half Full, and it really is about approaching life with optimism and a sense that things will work out. Not to say that they don't, but you got to just shake it off and then move on. But it is a collection of stories of what led me up to having those drinking shows, and then some of the crazy things that happened. Including how George Clooney and Anthony Bourdain affected those trajectories. One of them in a positive way and not one of them in a negative way. But there's a lot in there, and that comes out on April 7th. But people can pre-order it now for when it ships. But it's that I'm working on my tour for next year. The more animal stuff. My apparel brand is taking a paradigm shift. So there's a lot of cool things that are happening. If people just follow me on my social, they'll hear about it all. Yeah.
Comedian Zane Lamprey is performing at Common Roots Brewing Company's Albany Outpost Friday night. Head over to timesunion.com for more details and for all of the latest news and features. Be sure to check us out on our social channels, too. That's it for this week. We will be back soon with more from inside the newsroom. The Eagle is a production of the Times-Union. It's produced and edited by myself, Jessica Marshall, with help from Erica Smith and the Times-Union digital team. Our music is Flyin' by Top Floor via Getty Images. Special thanks to Rick Marshall for his contribution to this episode. Got questions or comments about the Eagle or any of our podcasts at the Times-Union? Please email us at podcast@timesunion.com.